A lot of people don't know this, but China actually has its own Christmas tradition.
你们要看见一个婴孩包着布卧在马槽里，那就是记号啦。Hi there, Ziola here. Merry Christmas!
This episode is a little bit different. We've spent the past few episodes talking about old Chinese stories, forgotten legends, and weird Chinese food. But today, I wanted to share something a little closer to my own heart. Since this episode comes out on Christmas, I thought it'd be nice to talk about what Christmas was like for me. A little girl growing up in China, and more specifically, what it's like to celebrate Christmas in a house church. In China, Christmas isn't a public holiday, which means we still got school on that day if it falls on a weekday. But honestly, that was part of the fun because it gave us a chance to celebrate Christmas together with our classmates, best friends, and teachers. When I was in elementary school, around the early 2000s, every kid will go out to buy Christmas cards a week before the big day, and we will write our little notes down to our best friends and favorite teachers, and sometimes just a simple wishes like Merry Christmas or Be Happy Forever kind of thing. Then, on Christmas morning, as soon as we arrive at school, we'll run around the classroom and give them out. And some kids would even bring candies and little gifts for their closest friends. I was one of those kids. Of course, that was years ago. These days, in many schools across China, celebrating a foreign holiday like Christmas isn't encouraged anymore. So I feel lucky that I got to grow up in a time when we still had those small, beautiful moments. A lot of people don't know this, but China actually has its own Christmas tradition. So in the West, December 24th is called Christmas Eve, of course. But in China, we call it 平安夜, which literally means the night of peace, a name borrowed from the famous carol Silent Night. And here's the sweetest part. The Chinese word for apple, 苹果, sounds a lot like 平安, the word for peace. And so over time, people started to giving apples as gifts on Christmas Eve, calling them peace apples or 平安果. From what I've heard, this tradition actually started in some of the Chinese house churches. Every year around Christmas, the church would welcome a lot of new people, and someone, no one really knows who, had a simple but beautiful idea. Let's give everyone a small gift during the Christmas service, something meaningful but affordable. And so the apple became the perfect choice. It symbolized peace, blessing, and a warm welcome. The traditions spread quickly from cities like Beijing to towns all across the country. When I was little, December was always the beautiful, the busiest, and the happiest time of the year. That's when all the house churches starting to prepare their Christmas gathering. In fact, many of them would begin as early as late November, planning programs, decorating, and organizing food. Some of the bigger churches would even rent out a hotel ballroom, set up a buffet, and turn the night into a full celebration. The kids from Sunday school would rehearse for weeks, getting ready to perform songs, little skits, and short plays. Some of those skits were funny, some of them are deeply meaningful, and a few retold the story of Christmas from the Bible. I still remember one year, our church performed a play based on the picture book You Are Special. I was the narrator, my cousin played the main character Punchinello, or in Chinese, 胖哥, and my other cousin was Lucia. And we were so proud standing out on tiny stages and our voices shaking, but our heart was full. And then another year, I got to play an angel, the angel who brought the good news. So I practiced the lines for weeks. I think I still got it.
因今天在大卫的城里为你们生了救主，就是主基督。你们要看见一个婴孩包着布卧在马槽里，那就是记号啦。
It makes me laugh now, but back then, it felt like the most important message in the world. And after the play, the pastor would come up and share a little message about hope, love, and turning our hearts back to Christ. And looking back, those evenings were truly special. They're warm, simple, and full of lights. Oh, those good old times. But not every year went so smoothly, because house churches are not officially recognized in China. There were times when we couldn't have a Christmas party at all. Some pastors and volunteers were taken away around that time, sometimes questioned and detained, and sometimes And for a lot of us, that meant Christmas just have to be quiet. Just a few families gathered in someone's living room. But even in that silence, there was still peace. There was still lights. I'll share a little bit more about what it's like growing up in the China's house churches in another episode. Because that's a story I really wanted to tell. But for now, I just hope that you will keep Chinese churches in our prayers and remember the true reason for the season. Merry Christmas! I'm Ziola. See you next time. Hi there! Ziola here. Do you ever find yourself missing those childhood stories as a teen or young adult? Some of them felt very scary when you first heard them, and some seemed pretty strange once you look back on them later. Before I moved to the US, I was already super familiar with Greek mythology, Bible stories, and a lot of classic Western fairy tales. But after I got here, I realized that most people around me had never even heard about the old myths or the stories of China. Some of my friends might know a bit about Japanese tales because of the anime they're watching, but Chinese tales, almost no one. That's why I'm starting this channel, to share some of the amazing stories I had grown up with. Some were told to me by my grandmother, and others came from this classic book, Liao Zhai, which literally translates to Tales Told at the Dinner Table. Anyway, I hope you enjoy these stories. Drop a comment to let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe.